Welcome back again guys to WrestleMania channel. Let us bring the time the world will never forget. The Battle of Samar. The Battle off Samar was the centermost action of the Battle of Leyte Gulf, one of the largest naval battles in history, which took place in the Philippine Sea off Samar Island, in the Philippines on October 25, 1944. It was the only major action in the larger battle in which the Americans were largely unprepared. The Battle off Samar has been cited by historians as one of the greatest last stands in naval history. Ultimately the Americans prevailed over a massive armada, the Japanese Imperial Navy's center force under command of Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita, despite their very heavy casualties and overwhelming odds. Admiral William Halsey Jr. was lured into taking his powerful Third Fleet after a decoy fleet of what was left of the Imperial Navy's carrier force, including the last member of the Pearl Harbor attack, the aircraft carrier Zuikaku, taking with him every ship in the area that he had the power to command. The remaining American forces in the area were three escort carrier groups of the 7th Fleet. The escort carriers and destroyer escorts, which had been built to protect slow convoys from submarine attack, had been adapted to attack ground targets and had few torpedoes, as they normally relied on Halsey's fleet to protect them from armored warships. A Japanese surface force of battleships and cruisers, led by the super battleship Yamato, the largest and most heavily gunned ship afloat, had been battered earlier in the larger battle and was thought to have been in retreat. Instead, it had turned around unobserved and encountered the northernmost of the three groups, DASC Unit 77.4.3, Daffy 3, commanded by Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague. Daffy 3's 3 destroyers and 4 destroyer escorts possessed neither the firepower nor the armor to oppose the 23 ships of the Japanese force capped by the Yamato's 46 cm, 18-inch, guns but attacked anyway with 5-inch caliber guns and torpedoes to cover the retreat of their slow jeep carriers. Aircraft from the carriers of Daffy's 1, 2, and 3, including FM-2 Wildcats, F-6F Hellcats and TBM Avengers, strafed, bombed, torpedoed, rocketed, depth-charged and made numerous dry runs at the Japanese force when they ran out of ammunition. Kurita's force passed through San Bernardino Strait at 3 o'clock on October 25, 1944 and steamed southwards along the coast of Samar, hoping that Halsey had taken the bait and moved most of his fleet away as he had in fact done. Kurita had been advised that Nishimura's southern force had been destroyed at Surigao Strait and would not be joining his force at Leyte Gulf. However, Kurita did not receive the transmission from the northern force that they had successfully lured away Halsey's third fleet of battleships and fleet carriers. Through most of the battle, Kurita would be haunted by doubts about Halsey's actual location. The wind was from the north-northeast and visibility was approximately 23 miles with a low overcast and occasional heavy rain squalls which the U.S. forces would exploit for concealment in the battle to come. The Japanese and the American ships were now intertwined in a confused jumble. The heavy smoke had made the visibility so poor by 8:40 Johnston nearly collided with Hemet while it crossed the formation to engage the Japanese destroyers, forcing Samuel B. Roberts to evade them both. Gambier Bay and Hull were sinking. Finding targets was not difficult. After 9 o'clock, With Hull and Samuel B. Roberts out of the fight, the crippled Johnston was an easy target. She exchanged fire with 4 cruisers and numerous destroyers. The force lost 2 escort carriers, 2 destroyers, a destroyer escort and several aircraft. Over 1,000 Americans died, comparable to the combined losses of American men and ships at the Coral Sea and Midway. The Americans sank 3 Japanese cruisers, disabled another 3 and caused enough confusion to persuade Admiral Kurita to regroup and ultimately withdraw, rather than advancing to sink troop and supply ships in Leyte Gulf. Half of all Americans killed at Leyte Gulf were killed in the battle. Although the battleship Yamato and the remaining force returned to Japan, the battles marked the final defeat of the Imperial Japanese Navy, as the ships remained in port for most of the rest of the war and ceased to be an effective naval force.